Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the Iranian president's visit and of course the takeaways from it as far as Pakistan and Iran is concerned, and also of course regionally speaking what this cooperation will mean for Pakistan and other relationships in the region. We'll be talking about of course as far as strategic alignment on nuclear issues is concerned or regional stability, security concerns are concerned, the no tolerance policy as far as terrorism is concerned, some of the things that Pakistan and Iran agree on. A little later on, we move on to, of course, the failure of Indian intelligence, which has become a pattern post Pehlgam. We'll be talking about this, and also Pakistan's technological edge as far as technology is concerned, as far as our overall narrative building is concerned. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Naela Chohan, who's former Special Secretary for Foreign Affairs. Thank you for being with us, Naela. Javed Jadoon, who's a senior analyst. Thank you for joining us today. A little later on, we'll also be joined by other guests. Let me start with Dr. Naela. Naela, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Ji, loud and clear. Naila, this visit and what it signifies, of course, we've been hearing about it for a few days now, but overall, in terms of what this means, one, for our bilateral relationship with Iran, in the light of changing conditions all over the world, I want to particularly focus on this. How are you seeing things?
Well, thank you, Mahrukh, for inviting me to your program. This is a very crucial question that you have posed. As far as the significance of the visit in bilateral terms is concerned, you know that this was the first President Pezeshkian's visit outside his country, and he chose to visit Pakistan. That itself is very important symbolically. Then the second most important thing is he started his visit from Lahore because the Islamic Revolution in Iran was basically inspired by the poetry of Allama Iqbal, the poet of the East. So visiting Lahore and paying tribute to Allama Iqbal was basically symbolic that it was Allama Iqbal's, because Mahrukh, in the initial days of the revolution, they didn't put pictures of Imam Khomeini, they put pictures of Allama Iqbal on the walls of Iran. So it is very important, and this visit to Lahore signifies that. But when it comes to the regional alliances and development, that is also very important. As you know, SCO summit is also coming. Iran is joining SCO. They are working on a regional level. The train links are from Iran to Uzbekistan to China. They have expressed interest to join CPEC. So it has multifaceted areas of interest in which the two countries, bilaterally as well as regionally, are agreeing to work upon.
Talk more about this, Naila, and of course, what kind of a roadmap we expect, to further what, of course, has been agreed on. I have with me Javed Jadoon. I'll come back to you. Javed sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Javed sir, this visit of like Naila said, it's significant for a lot of reasons for Pakistan. But in terms of what, the takeaways from it in the next 2 to 3 years, what do you expect? In terms of course, security is one issue, and agreeing on a no tolerance policy with regard to that. In terms of strategic alignment on nuclear issues, where do you think that's headed as far as between countries like us and Iran?
Yeah. Mark, I think in particular, the most important outcome of this meeting between President Pezeshkian and the Pakistani leadership is to raise the level of bilateral trade to $10 billion. I think extremely important outcome of this meeting. President Masood Pezeshkian's visit to Pakistan signifies many other important aspects, including the recent conflict between Iran and Israel. Pakistan was the country which came out unequivocally to support Iranian position vis-a-vis Israel, and Pakistan strongly condemned that aggression as well. And now the relations between the two countries, as far as the bilateral trade or economic enhancement is concerned, I think that is going to form the bedrock of relations between the two countries. Apart from the Iran and Pakistan also have a common cause as far as fighting terrorism is concerned, and the two countries can even cooperate in counter-terror efforts as well. But economy, Mahrukh, is the buzzword. Economic and trade ties is the modern day relations between two sovereign nations, and mutually beneficial economic and trade ties, of course, are going to impact many other aspects as far as the relations between the two countries is concerned. So the visit signifies one, economic and trade, enhanced economic and trade ties between Pakistan and Iran, and the other side, Pakistan's position vis-a-vis this recent conflict, 12-day conflict between Iran and Israel. So it is important, Mahrukh, to understand that the two countries are neighbors, though they had a certain difference of opinion as well, and they have come a long way now, and they do understand that in this particular region, the two countries must have the worldview which converges as far as Tehran and Islamabad is concerned. So I believe
more about this, Javed Sahib. I want to speak more about on this. Of course, the fact neighbors and considering the situation between that we've seen as far as Iran is concerned. Also, let me go to Dr. Salma and I'll come back. Dr. Salma, can you hear me? Dr. Salma, I understand, of course, that you're short of time, but very quickly, as far as relationships, Iran's relationships with other countries, and of course, the growing tensions there, the visit at this time, in light of that, how it's quite significant in that sense also, right?
Yes, exactly. Mahrukh, if you recall, the late president of Iran, he had also made a very significant visit to Pakistan. And this has been a wish between both the countries, both Iran and Pakistan, that good neighborly relationships are well maintained. And the pause that we had for a while between the two countries, based on sectarian, ethnic affiliations, and several other issues that were plaguing these relationships, which were not very deep rooted. Mashallah, both the countries have been able to iron them out. And despite the fact that Iran has been through a very difficult time, what we now see is that Pakistan and Iran had really stood by each other during their trying time. When Pakistan had this problem with India, Iran offered its third party mediation and played a very positive role. And likewise, when Iran was
in terms of counter-terrorism strategies, in terms of we know that as far as stability, security concerns are concerned, and in terms of coming together, of course, on no terrorism policy also, what do you think is the future of this relationship?
The two countries, and that is terrorism, which is plaguing the Sistan, Balochistan, and Pakistani Balochistan issue. And for that matter, Iran and Pakistan's mutual cooperation is paramount, extremely important and pertinent to weed out this issue. And Iran has also seen during this particular time how infiltrated it has been by Indian as well as Israeli security agents and intel agents who played a very drastic role when it came to the killing of Iranian high security operators and strategic leadership. And that is something that now Iran realizes very openly. And I think for Pakistan and Iran, this is one of the strongest convergence point where they have to come together. It's not a wish list, it's imperative that they come together and they decide how to resolve this problem for the betterment of both the countries. Otherwise, the way Pakistani Balochistan has been restive, Iranian Balochistan, God forbid, if it is overtaken by these elements, then it is going to become a major issue, not only for Iran, but for Pakistan and much more. So both these
You've
countries
mentioned you've mentioned convergence also. But apart from security, what are other areas in which you feel Pakistan and Iran can converge?
security, economics, energy, education. I come from education sector, and there is so much of interest by Iranian higher education institutions, the medical sector. There's so many things that bring us together, and we really have to decide as to how these things can really, really help us see how Iran and Pakistan can once again not only revive but strengthen, because revival is very much there, but it's a question of strengthening and reaffirming their old brotherly relationship, which have been there for a very long time. Iran at one time has also been Pakistan's strategic depth, and in very, very true sense, when in 1965 the Shah of Iran provided Pakistan with that, and now the Iranian leadership, the religious leadership as well as political leadership, very much recognizes how much Pakistan has been instrumental in supporting Iran during its war with Israel. And that is something that we both need to capitalize as much as possible upon. And
Dr. Salma, there's also, in right now, as we speak, we know that US, Israel, Iran, overall, the growing tensions there in terms of implications for neighboring countries like Pakistan. What are implications for us? Because, of course, this is something that we are looking at right now in terms of the rising tensions that are certainly there.
I think that the Israeli-Iran war brought to forth was that this stupidity and this criminal conduct by Israel and full-fledged support by the U.S. has actually put the nuclear non-proliferation efforts, the global non-proliferation efforts, in a big jeopardy, and they've totally compromised them. Secondly, the role played by international organizations and international agencies, such as the IAEA, have also been not only compromised, in fact, they've become questionable, and their neutrality is largely questioned in this regard. Thirdly, any country that wanted to, like Iran, take an ideal non-proliferation path now has to think twice. And the fact that, and of course, with the emerging technologies, destructive emerging technologies, Israel's intent, that has made so many of these countries, the question of sovereignty has a huge question mark before it, but also all of these countries extremely vulnerable to provocative attacks, self-engineered excuses to carry out destructive actions in another country and create new norms. And these are the things which countries such as Iran, such as Pakistan, who are leaders in the middle power sector, these countries, they have to really come together and talk about and champion the rights of the middle powers, and also try and reestablish.
We talk about championing rights. Of course, it's also significant that Pakistan has unequivocally, endorsed Iran's nuclear program, and we know that it's a peaceful nuclear program. But in the context of the rising global tensions at this time, how significant is that?
You see, Iran so far, they have also once again reviewed their religious decree. Iran remains very much affirmed to its nuclear non-proliferation stance. And even at that time, it was not exactly a nuclear program, but it was a nuclear program for peaceful purposes. And this is something that Iran has time and again put forward. It is also a member of the NPT, so the status was very different. But the problem that we see is that despite all of these affirmations, these countries, some countries such as Israel or the US, they keep on challenging the peaceful intent of these countries. And that is something that Pakistan, Iran, and like-minded countries have to confirm together talk about and create regimes which protect them and prevent future actions from taking place.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Salma. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Naela, when we talk about, regionally in terms of our own, diplomacy, we know that, we saw the COS visit, Field Marshal Asim Munir's visit of China recently. We also saw, of course, the Deputy Prime Minister in US, and overall, the way that Pakistan's diplomacy at this time is structured, and now this visit of Iran. How are you looking at the balance that of course Pakistan is trying to create with all these countries, and the kind of relationship that of course we are trying to develop, the diplomatic efforts that are being made to balance relationships?
Well, Mahrukh, Pakistan has been, since its inception, been trying to create balance, because we were born, now we are going to commemorate 14th August. We were born in the cradle of Cold War. So we were put in a world which was bipolar at that time. And we had to survive. We made friends with United States of America. We joined alliances, but then the alliances didn't work. Then the relation was checkered. It went up and down. And from friends, uh, it became transactional. They made it AFPAC, hyphenated us, which was a big problem after 9/11. And then you know that in 1971, we were instrumental in creating bridges between United States of America and China. And that's how the first communication between the two sides occurred. Even now, we have been playing a very honest, very straightforward diplomacy, where we are trying to bring all the parties concerned together. Now,
Dr.
as you asked
You
earlier on,
mentioned bringing all the parties together, and certainly, for for us, I'm sorry, at this time, it's a huge initiative, but at the same time, these are countries with potentially competing interests. And right now, of course, what immediate, it means a lot to us to engage with these countries on the same level. How do you look at it long term, though, for us, for Pakistan?
I think in the long term, Pakistan has a very bright future, because Pakistan is on the right side of history. We have, very strong and cordial relations with China. We are iron brothers, and our friendship is from the heart and it's time tested. With United States of America, we have recently signed a deal, a trade deal. So now that relationship which was going down has started coming up. With Iran, there were certain misgivings. As you remember, last year also, there was some violation of our borders, which we retaliated to, and then the late President Raisi from Iran had come to clear the air, and the relations went back on track. But when Israel attacked Iran, we unequivocally condemned it. When violations of international law took place, we condemned it. And we stood by our Iranian brothers. But when it comes to nuclear, we have to speak about it very carefully, because at this moment it is very fluid. When Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says that Pakistan supports Iran's right for peaceful nuclear energy, it is in the light of Iran's commitment to IAEA, Iran being signatory of Non-Proliferation Treaty. So in that context, that treaty allows Iran to pursue a peaceful nuclear program. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, we are not a signatory of NPT, and opposition was very clear that we will sign it provided India signs it. India did not, and the powers looked the other way when India prepared its nuclear weapons. So we did not sign on NPT, and we established our full spectrum deterrence nuclear doctrine. But when it comes to Iran, the dynamics are different. And we hope that they will stay in IAEA and they will conform to it. And that's how it will legitimize their nuclear uh, programs. If Iran decides to walk out of IAEA, then it will become a big problem for Iran, and it would be difficult to support that by any country. So we have to tread this ground very carefully.
I think you're very right on this. I'm going to go to Javed Jadoon Saab. Javed Saab, I think Naela is very right when she says that we do have to tread very carefully this path because of at this time the tensions that exist in the region also, and of course as far as the issue of nuclear power, as far as Iran itself is concerned. How are you looking at this in the long term vis-a-vis, our relationship with Iran?
Mahrukh, if we look at what Prime Minister Shahbaz said, maybe on a moralistic ground, he's right that every country does have the right to pursue the peaceful nuclear program under the safeguards of the IAEA. Beyond that, I think Pakistan shouldn't get involved into any kind of posturing vis-a-vis Iran's nuclear capability or otherwise, because we don't know what kind of a program Iran is pursuing, and we leave it to the IAEA and we leave it to Iran and the European countries and America to negotiate Iran's nuclear program, because it's a very complex situation in the region right now. It's still a unipolar world where there's only one superpower which is dictating its own terms as far as trade and economy is concerned. We have seen how President Trump has been dictating the entire world as far as the trade tariffs are concerned, imposing, reducing, revoking, so on and so forth. So when I say it's a very complex situation, geostrategic, in terms of geostrategic situation I'm talking about, Pakistan has its own problems vis-a-vis India. We have got a country which has got very aggressive designs and hegemonistic designs in South Asia, a country which never recognized the existence of Pakistan, the country which is being ruled by Hindutva and RSS political ideology. And that political ideology is based on hating the Muslims and in general and in particular Pakistan. So we have got a problem on our eastern border. As far as trade and economy is concerned.
Javed Sahab, I want to move on that note. Of course, like you said, those factors exist, and we do very rarely have, of course, at this time, a neighbor like India. And with that, of course, the fact that, we've also been, we've showed them our own power at this time. We look at post Pehlgam, the scenario, and we want to move on and talk about the intelligence failure that we are, that the world has witnessed as far as India itself is concerned, and its own effects, its own ramifications that are not only prevalent all over the world and are resonating, but also within India. If we look at what is being said within their country, if we look at the speeches that are being made by their opposition leaders, if we look at what is being said by their own people, it's crystal clear that there is a very real crisis there. To talk about this, I have with me AVM retired Ijaz Malik. Sahab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Ijaz Sahab, as far as this failure of intelligence is concerned, with India's miscalculation of PL-15 missile range and, the fact that they believed it maxed at 150 km, whereas of course the PAF fired at 200. How do you look at this failure and the fact that it's indicative of deeper issues of intelligence, deeper issues of management within their own country?
Well, although writer has termed it as an intelligence failure, more than that, it is a poor, planning, poor operational planning, because you, as a fighting a force, you have to grant best possible option to the enemy based on whatever data is available either from the open source about any equipment's capability, and secondly, your own intel based on certain employments in various exercises. So it is a combination of both. In this particular case, if they haven't done their homework well and they have committed their Rafale on ranges which ultimately proved to be fatal for them, then it is far beyond an intelligence failure. It reflects very poor on their basic professional acumen to prepare their threat perception realistically.
But Jasab, it's also, if you look at the intelligence failure, on the one hand, it's the intelligence failure or mismanagement like you are saying. On the other hand, it's also indicative of the fact that, if a hastily cooked up operation like Pehlgam, and then the fact that they fail to corroborate anything that they said with any credible evidence, and that is echoed in questions that are being risen in their own country when their own people are asking, why have they not been able to give the world any kind of credible evidence against Pakistan? So is it all those things when we talk about intelligence failure, mismanagement, and a very deep miscalculation and underestimation of our capabilities as a country?
It's a strategic planning failure, and of course, the intelligence is one part of that greater term of strategic planning. You see, actually, this entire operation was orchestrated by the political regime, political leadership of India, RSS driven, that repeated the episode of first doing a state managed false flag operation, then blaming Pakistan, and then trying to take advantage of that incident.
It is also being said within India, right, that this was, like you said, it's civilian leadership, and the fact that, perhaps the civilian leadership and the military leadership were not on one page as far as this operation was concerned also.
What happened? It was Prime Minister Modi, his own, very close kitchen cabinet, and then it was, the snowball effect of the hype that they had created through media. So these were the two key players in lead role, and obviously then once the matter came to the third player, which had to face the brunt of this entire brinkmanship, that was their military, particularly the Air Force. And if you recall, one of their very senior Air Force commander, he tried to put some sanity into the cabinet members of Mr. Modi, and he was, transferred from that post. So, they were put into a war without having, done due deliberations that what would be the outcome of fighting a limited war against Pakistan, which was essentially an air power versus air powers, intense and crisp war. And obviously their estimation, their intelligence gathering, and their strategic planning failed on three counts. One, that on diplomatic front, they assumed that Pakistan is isolated, so world would not respond, world would be on Indian side. Secondly, they thought that probably there is a fault line being created in Pakistan amongst the people of Pakistan and the armed forces of Pakistan. It again proved wrong. and we have seen that how the entire nation galvanized and gelled together, standing behind our valiant armed forces. And lastly,
Jasab, if we look at the downing itself, we look at what the President of the US has said, the questions that are being asked from Modi himself from within India, that's an important debate now within India. Why did he propel India into this fight the way he did? The false flag operation, the hastily cooked up without any intelligence, where is the backed up evidence? All of those questions are now being asked, and the fact that why did he not negate President Trump when he said categorically that he did in fact intervene to de-escalate as far as the situation was concerned. So those are questions that are rising. But for you, my question is it true that this was justified or cooked up, in your opinion, for domestic audience within India?
It has, I would say it was, twofold. One, that it was for the domestic audience, and then obviously by staging this so-called terrorist activity, they try to, like they have always been doing, portray themselves as a victim of terrorism, while the facts on ground are that they are the actual epicenter of terrorism in the region. Pakistan is the victim, and India is responsible for cross-border terrorism. So they were trying to sell their narrative.
Do you think that narrative, that it is in fact India that has camouflaged itself, that the facade that it's created, it is now making that facade itself is cracking because of their own actions? And if we see post Pehlgam, not one nation, and this is something that has been talked about in their own assemblies, in their own parliament, that not one nation has criticized or has said that Pakistan could be responsible for Pehlgam. So when that happens, it's a deep seated effect of their own failure to corroborate an operation like Pehlgam, right?
Exactly. This is an absolute failure, and that is why we see a lot of noise being created in their own parliament, by their own think tanks and their own media now, because there is no denying the fact that they lost this war. Pakistan overwhelmingly had beaten them in this war. So after this defeat, if this defeat was based on an aggression by Pakistan, then probably the Indian opposition or Indian public at large would have had some, semblance of sympathy towards Modi regime. But everybody understands that the war was initiated and then fueled by Mr. Modi, his media.
But Javed Sahab, is this simply an intelligence oversight when we talk about that? India's political leadership at this time, it's dragging their own military into an ill-prepared fight, also signifies that perhaps there are questions that need to be asked of their own leadership, their own civilian leadership, and that there needs to be of course on an international scale perhaps an inquiry which Pakistan should ask for, because there has been these accusations again are not corroborated. There is no evidence that's been given on any level, which was what the Prime Minister of Pakistan, which our Prime Minister asked for on day 2 perhaps.
Absolutely, Mahrukh, it's not only Pakistan which has been questioning as far as the proof is concerned or evidence is concerned. Now even the main opposition parties in India, as you know, that what happened in the parliament when they started questioning Prime Minister Modi, there is the evidence of Pehlgam, how Pehlgam happened, what was NIA doing, their National Investigation Agency, where are the proofs, and so on and so forth. He wasn't able to respond to any question, any query when he responded for more than 1 hour in the lower house of the parliament. But Mahrukh, when we talk about the Indian intelligence failure, I mean, we community forget about the billions of Pakistan Air Force, the kind of a war strategy they evolved. Only yesterday, the British news agency Reuters uh, issued a story which says that the Air Chief Marshal Zaid Sidhu was sleeping at the mattress for days opposite the operation room, waiting in anticipation of any Indian assault against Pakistan. And when it took place, he ordered his pilots to particularly target the Rafales, which were and still are the jewel of Indian Air Force. So I think it's the kind of a kill chain Pakistan created is being discussed by almost every important military strategist in the world, particularly in the developed world, how Pakistan created this kill chain to track the Indians and then kill them as well. I mean, 6 fighter planes down to 3 Rafales included, even the Su-30 MT-1 is also a state-of-the-art fourth-generation fighter plane. So I think
Reuters also, reveals a PAF-led multi-domain kill chain involving Chinese and Swedish systems both. How significant is this in shaping the next era of air warfare, in your opinion?
Of course, Mahrukh, it is an important question, and it must be understood that the next war would be more electronic warfare oriented, cyberspace oriented, and drone oriented, and even the particularly the use of beyond visual ranges, as you pointed out yourself, that Indians thought the PL-15 at the range of 150 km, and rather it turned out to be that even it could shoot down the Indian fighter planes beyond the range of 200 kilometers.
Right. Thank you so much, Javed Saab. On that note, thank you so much for joining us today. Naela Chohan, thank you with us. Javed Jadoon, thank you for joining us. Dr. Salma Malik, thank you for your very valuable time. Overall, of course, the way that Pakistan had tackled this operation, the way that, it underscores the importance of course, one, the fact that this is a country that underestimated Pakistan's power. It's a country that has, on numerous occasions now denied what is being said internationally by the President of the United States. It's a country that is denying the fact that Pakistan itself, no country in the world condemned Pakistan or, associated what happened in Pehlgam with Pakistan as a country. That itself is, of course, the beginning of the end, in the sense that it breaks down the facade that India has consistently tried to sell the world. On that note, thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.